UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Erceg took place this past weekend at Mexico at CDMX Mexico Arena. Brandon Moreno beat Steve Erceg by 5 rounds, solidifying himself to be the next title contender. We recapping this next in Fighting with Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fighting with Friends. It's your boy, Brother Guy, back again to do another recap of a fantastic fight card. I must say so myself. Was a little bit skeptical about it. Wasn't sure if it's going to be exciting just because of the matchups. But at the end of the day, it came out to be quite entertaining performances from most of the fighters on the fight card. As always, 80 would always say, we're starting at the top of the card. Let's go straight to the top of the card where we saw Brandon Babyface Assassin beat Steve Erceg over 5 rounds by unanimous decision to pretty much solidify himself as the next contender. I know we were going to get Kai France versus Alex Pantoja for the title, but I think this fight pretty much sets up Brandon Moreno to fight next. The winner of that fight come later this year, probably going to be in August. But okay, we'll keep it moving nice and swiftly. So over 5 rounds, Brandon Moreno was the victor. How do I see the fight? My perception of it, I thought it was quite competitive, to be honest. I thought it was equal most of the time. I know the significant strikes on screen showcases that Steve Erceg landed more. I would go as far as to say that Steve Erceg was slightly more active, but I mean those punches that he was throwing weren't really doing anything. A couple of good full stiff jabs, maybe a calf kick here and there, but Moreno started checking him quite early after the first round. I think it was a pretty much that throughout the whole fight. Both fighters were trying to establish the distance, establish the forward momentum, but I felt that Moreno was just slightly ahead of Steve when it came to that. He had Steve fighting very reactively. Whenever Steve would try to push the pace going forward, Moreno would counter with a hard overhand right or a hard overhand left, or even a hard left hook to the body, which meant that Steve had to rethink about how he was going to enter. And that pretty much was the majority of other fighters played out. I think, in each round, Brandon would maybe fake a takedown. He would shoot for something. He would have Steve drop his hands. He was basically making Steve think about that wrestling. And I mean, there were a few moments where Brandon had a couple of moments where he got Steve to the ground, but Steve would just get up almost immediately and fight the hands, and they would get back to the boxing range. And then once they're in boxing range, again, each round you would see them kind of take up into the octagon, and then Brandon would maybe land a harder overhand right or something. Or basically, whatever combo Brandon would throw, you could see Steve would wear it a little bit worse for wear. Whereas when Steve would land on Brandon, which was most of the time a stiff jab, that was it. And Brandon would just take it and walk forward and pretty much start doing what he does best again. I like that he was saying in his post-fight conference, he was saying that he didn't expect anything different from Steve, but he did expect a competitive fight. And I mean, Steve I think he's going to be a top contender. He's number 8, but I do think that the performance like that, if you look at his last few fights, okay, he lost against Pantoja, very competitive fight. He lost against Kai France, but I think Kai France can knock out anybody in this division. I don't care who you are. I think once Kai France lands on you're probably going to go to sleep in this division. So, yeah, I would kind of put the asterisks next to that one for Steve Erceg. I still think he's got talent just to hang with the big dogs in this division for sure. And it's exciting times. Honestly, it really is exciting times. I'm going to bring up the rankings quickly just so we can move on to the what's next for these two gentlemen. So for Brandon Moreno, again, I'm not going to go in too much depth about how the fight was played. Like I said, what I was saying, what I said now about how the boxing was taking place is pretty much how the fight was for 25 minutes. They were just boxing for most of the time, and I think Brandon Moreno is probably the best boxer in the division. So, yeah, I think if it stayed like that, which it did, I think Steve was going to win it. So, yeah, Moreno, big up for him. So, what's next for Brandon Moreno? So, if I go to the flyweight division, and let's just zoom in there where Pantoja is the current champion. Yeah, I mean, he beat Brandon Moreno 3 times prior to this current moment in time. So that means for me, Brandon Moreno sets himself up to basically fight either Royval or Pantoja next. So Pantoja's fighting against Kai France, and then obviously Brandon Royval won his last fight against Tsudo Taira. Manal Cup is up there. I think we can put Manal Cup against Brandon Moreno. That could give us a fantastic title eliminator. If not, we have Brandon Royval versus Manal Cup, and then we put Brandon Moreno versus Kaya Sakura. Kaya Sakura is here at the bottom. That is insane. Because I don't think any of these guys here have done enough to Tomelia, Tajir, Aswa Mabayev, these guys all Joshua Van's only ones that's really on a streak here. Bruno Silva, all these guys came with losses. Alex Perez has been consistently losing for the last 3 years. I have no idea why he's still on the list here as number 7. He should come out of the list. So I think Brandon Moreno's next fight would either have to wait to get the winner between Pantoja and Kai Kara France, or Brandon Moreno takes on a rising talent. Maybe he fights Manal Cup, and the winner of there gets to fight against Pantoja. Or if Pantoja beats Kai Kara France, which I think he's going to, by the way. That's the next matchup. As for Steve Erceg, I think for Steve Erceg, he either fights Aso Almabayev, who's coming off a loss as well. There is obviously Almir Albazi coming off a loss, Tatsuro Taira coming off a loss, and all these guys are ranked above him. If they don't give him that fight, I would say give him Kaya Sakura. That'd also be a fantastic fight to watch. So, yeah, big times for the flyweight division. A lot of the media is coming out, has been always doing this about fighting the lighter divisions, particularly flyweight center is not that entertaining. It's not that active. Um, yeah, it just doesn't pull that much numbers. But I don't know. I think it's all of the rich pool of talented motherfuckers, the ones, excuse my language, but talented fighters. And I think that any one of those matchups in that division will be exciting to watch. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the future of that one. But I think Moreno has put himself very much in a good position where he can get a title shot. As always, like and subscribe if you like the content, share it with your homies, get involved in the banter, let us know what your thoughts are for the future of that flyweight division, as well as like what's next for Brandon Moreno. Right, for now we will keep it moving to the co-main event where we saw my guy picked up the performance of the night bonus. Al Loco, let's go. Manuel Torres, Al Loco, beating legendary Drew Dober, and yeah, I called it. I said to AD, I think Manuel Torres is gonna get the job done here. Probably finish Drew Dober. And that's exactly what he did. He was the more younger, vibrant fighter and got the knockout in the first round. Only 4 minutes into the first round, as you can see on screen, 23 strikes to 3. Um, there wasn't enough time for Drew Dober to throw anything, and I think Aloko just went in there and showcased why he's the next breed. I mean, Drew Dober is over 30, I think 37 years old, so it was hard to kind of see him winning the fight when you got this young talent that's just coming in like a tornado, trying to obviously rise to the top of the game. And yeah, you got to give props to Torres for that performance. I thought it was elite. I thought his kickboxing was fantastic. I like how he fights out of both stances. The fight before this one, he was fighting out of a southpaw stance. When he fought Bahamundes, came into this fight, went back to orthodox, and he looks comfortable out of both stances. And he was hitting Drew Dober with all sorts of things. And the finishing sequence was fantastic when he basically landed that 1-2, because he threw the 1-2 I think 2 times before that, and slightly missed it, and that Drew Dober biting on that feint, and then when he threw it the third time, it just landed so cleanly, dropping Drew Dober, making him question the stoppage, but then realizing that he's still pretty much dazed. And yeah, I think Manuel Torres sets himself up now for a, how do I put this, favorable matchups coming up now where the UFC is going to accommodate him. They're gonna, because he pulls a lot of weight. The crowd loves him. I know it was a Mexican heavy crowd, but I mean any fight where we watch Manuel Torres in, the crowd goes nuts for the guy. So I think the UFC is starting to realize that they could potentially have a massive star in their hand here come with Manuel Torres. I mean, he's in one of the most dangerous weight divisions in the UFC by far, right? And speaking of, let's actually go to the rankings, because there's not much you can actually explain other than the fight. In the fight, it was a very short first round, and Torres just went in there, utilized his reach advantage, and landed a couple of 1-2s, and got Drew Dober out of there. So, yeah. But if you want to go and watch more about Torres, go check him out. He's a very much a talented guy for the division. So we're gonna pull up the rankings for the lightweight division right now. Okay, and you're gonna. This is the reason why I think that Manuel Torres is in a division that is hyped at the moment. Uber hyped. Sorry about that. Just happened. There we go. Makachev is the current champion. Some madness going on in this division in terms of who's going to be fighting who. So I'm just going to do that so long. Right. So Manuel Torres in this division. How do I think he's going to? We should be fighting next. How do I think it should be playing out. So I'm going to ignore the top 5, top 10 of the division, right? I'm gonna go there. So he lost to Ignacio Bahamondes. Grant Dawson is on a 3-fight winning streak. Benoit Santini lost one, won one in his last three. Paddy the Baddies is still currently undefeated in the UFC. Rafa Faziev has lost his last 2 fights. Last one obviously against Justin Gaethje, and then there's Renato Moicano, which I think would be a fantastic fight for Manuel Torres. I don't think that Renato Moicano is going to want to fight an unranked opponent unless the bag makes sense. So I think personally, anyone from top 10 upwards won't accept the fight for Manuel Torres. I wouldn't want the UFC to give him another unranked opponent. I think that would be a waste of star potential for this athlete. So I would say put him up against Grant Dawson. Ignacio Bahamondes should not be 15th. I think Ignacio Bahamondes should be a little bit higher. So the matchups that I would think would make next would be we're gonna go Manuel Torres taking on Grant Dawson, and we have Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Benoit Santini. That's the next matchup for those two athletes. If that's not the case, I would say Ignacio Bahamondes versus Rafael Faziev, and then we go Manuel Torres taking on either Grant Dawson or Benoit Santini. That's for me the best matchups for them going forward. I think the rankings is way too stiff, way too intense, way too competitive for Manuel Torres to climb up right now. That doesn't mean I think he's not good enough to beat these guys. I just think he has to beat someone in the lower rankings of the top 15 first before he can actually start going up the ladder massively. As for Drew Dober, on the other hand, I think Drew Dober is probably going to have to hang up the gloves. Personally, I think that was an opportunity for him to hang up the gloves in this fight. Because if you can't beat someone like Manuel Torres, who's most likely going to be the kind of guy you're going to see in the top echelon of the division as you progress, maybe that's a sign you should call it. 37 years old, you're only going to get the younger guys now. Maybe call it there. GFL is going to be starting soon. So jump into GFL, make some good cash there. That could be his next thing. But big up to Manuel Torres to get performance of the night. And also, personally, I thought he was fighter of the night as well. Definitely high. Over Brandon Moreno, which is a big thing to make, a big statement to make. Because Brandon Moreno is the king. He is the pride of Mexico. But Torres, our local, he's causing waves. And I like it. And I think I'm here for that. I'd love to see his growth continue. And hopefully we get to see him fight Bahamondes in the future for the title. The two of them will run it back. I do believe that both those athletes have got the potential to be the kings of the division as we progress further. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on Manuel Torres. Obviously, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'll keep it moving now to a fight that was supposed to be the co-main event of the undercard. This part got shifted up to the main card simply because Calvin Gastelum and Joe Pyfer's fight got pulled from the card. Unfortunately, Joe Pyfer had food poisoning. So, just got to wish him all the best. Hope that they can run that fight back. I'd love to see that fight go out again. I was quite excited to watch it happen. So, unfortunately, we didn't get it. So, let's see in the future we get to see Joe Pyfer and Calvin Gastelum actually throw down. Right. But in the place, we've got Edgar Chairez. He took on CJ Vergara in place of that fight. And this fight ended in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. I think Edgar Chairez, I remember watching that. Edgar Chairez, he won the first round via submission, just basically schoolyard choked the hell out of CJ Vergara, took him down very quickly. It looked like a fight that was happening out in the streets. Like these guys were rival gangs and they just looked at each other and they were like, we're just gonna throw down for our honor of our family. And Edgar just went in there and he didn't even waste time. Took CJ down literally as quickly as possible. Had him struggling. Had CJ looking like he didn't want to be in there. And I'm gonna say this now, and I'm gonna say this is the last time. Why on earth is CJ Vergara still on the UFC roster? At the end of this fight card, I was telling myself and AD and Nate was with me, and I was saying, a lot of these fighters on this card should be cut from the UFC because they've consistently been losing. Normally your fight contract stipulates that 3-fight losing streak is the end of your term is where you're going to get terminated. CJ Vergara hasn't won the fight in his last 3 fights. This guy's just been losing the whole time, and not just losing by decision. Like he's getting stopped, he's getting submitted, he's getting knocked out. And I think personally, it's a little of a waste to have this dude on the card right now. And Edgar, big ups to him to come in there and put on a performance like that. Looked like he was very emotional. I think someone had passed away, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was his grandpa or something like that. And big condolences to him. And I could see the emotions were coming out quite massively out of the guy. And it looked like nothing was going to beat him on the night. So big ups to Edgar. Not going to spend too much time on it. Fight was supposed to be a prelim fight anyway. As for CJ, get this man out of here. Get him out of the UFC now. He's just gonna keep wasting up. Unless they're paying him really well to be that test dummy for the athletes. You know, oh, we got a star here, a potential star here. We need to build up this kid's career. Let's give him a CJ. TJ, here's a 50K. Go get knocked out quickly for us, please. That's what it feels like. So I'm just gonna keep it moving. You guys don't have to say anything about that fight either. All right, let's keep it moving to a fight that, again, I was quite excited for as well. We have Raul Rosas Jr. Chiwiwi. He took on the legendary, I would say legendary, but he took on a bit of a veteran in Vince Morales, who was on a 5-fight losing streak coming into this fight. And now he lost another fight. That's another guy who I think they should cut from the UFC, because now you fed Vince Morales to two up-and-comers in the space of 3 months in the UFC. And both fights he got beaten by these youngsters. That I'm not throwing shade on the youngsters. It's more of like when you come to a point of your career where you've kind of missed the train to be the next best thing, which is usually between the ages of 25 to 33. If you miss that train in combat sports, like you can forget about it, my friend. Because then after that, after 33, you're just gonna fight a bunch of older guys. If you're gonna get anyone younger than 33, you're probably gonna get knocked out to stop. So yeah, I just think that Vince Morales has missed his boat to become a greatness. And so Raul Rosa Jr. Continues to rise his stock, and I like that he's calmed down and not being so cocky and aggressive on the mic. I like that he's pretty much become a lot more reserved and a bit more patient with his growth. Because that's gonna make a very deadly athlete. He's a really good, he's a talented guy. He's got good wrestling, which is what he utilized in this fight quite a bit. He wrestled a lot in this fight. Didn't allow Vince to let his hands go. And yeah, he's only 19, 20 years old. The sky's the limit for this kid. And I think if he stays focused the way he is right now, doesn't get involved in the media as much into necessary things, focus on his training, try to become a little bit more killer instinct with the hands, not so much with wrestling. He's gonna make a very fantastic contender in that bantamweight division. As for Vince Morales, yeah, I think 6-fight losing streak here. I think your time is done. Chop, contract finish, get him out of here. Raul Rosas Jr. He's growing at a good pace, and in this fight he did it really well. I think 2 rounds of the 3 he won. The third round became a little bit competitive when Vince was reversing some of the positions, even sunk in a bit of a dash choke almost, but never really had it locked because he couldn't get his leverage by hooking up the hips. So it gave Raul a lot of opportunity to escape, which is what he did. He just held on there and was like, nah, I'm fine. And his thumbs up in the air at the end of the round, like, nah, I'm super chill, don't worry about it. So yeah, good performance from the boy overall. And looking forward to seeing what happens next for him. Speaking of, let's go to the bantamweight rankings, where we have Merab Dvalishvili as the champion. And if I look at this list, based on the performance that we got from Raul Rosas Jr., it's hard to kind of see him fight anyone in the top 15. I'm gonna keep it there. I'm not gonna go above. In fact, I'm not gonna go above 11. I don't think he's worthy of fighting anyone over there. Kyler Phillips lost his last fight. Would love to see him maybe fight Kyler Phillips. Marcus McGee would also be a nice fight for Raul Rosas Jr. Ayman Zahabi seems to have a fight. I'm not sure who it is, but I remember he's got a fight coming up. So we can't put him in there. And then Montal Jackson as well. Why is Montal Jackson even? Anyway, I'm thinking Raul Rosas Jr. give him Marcus McGee. He's most likely going to win that fight. Then he will have a number next to his name. And then from there, you can kind of work the boy's career next. Or if you really want to test the kid, Kyler Phillips is right there. I think that will be a fantastic fight for Raul Rosas Jr. I think it'll be a fantastic fight for Kyler Phillips as well to get back into the win column and then also to take on someone with a name like Raul Rosas Jr. as well. It's a win-win for all parties involved. For Raul, Kyler Phillips, as well as for the UFC. I think it's been a good matchup because everyone gets to get a plus out of that. Kyler Phillips, it's a win back in the column against a name like Raul. That seems to carry a lot of weight. For Raul, defeating Kyler Phillips, who was in your position a while back, and then now he's in the UFC. So it's like you basically that's the next natural progression, right? And then for the UFC, it's both fighters that got a little bit of a stock in the UFC in terms of fan bases, makes a good amount of money, and it helps the rankings of the bantamweight division move. So I think that would be a fantastic fight to watch. As for everyone else, I don't know if he's done enough just yet to get that high ranking spot or challenge. As always, let me know in the comments, please and gentlemen, who do you think will get that job? Who do you think that Raul Rosas should fight next? And for Vince Morales, if you share the same sentiment that I share as he should be cut from the UFC. Asseblief toch, get this man out of here. All right, let's keep it moving, ladies and gentlemen. Another performance of the night award going to David Martinez. He beat Simon Oliveira in the first round knockout. If I'm not mistaken, yes, first round knockout. And dude, I mean, if you can even see on screen, if you look at this, I just want to show you. If you look at those numbers, I don't know if you can see it. I'll zoom it in just a little bit. Total strikes over what seemed like 4.5 minutes of the first round. 28 strikes landed for David Martinez and 8 significant strikes landed for Simon Oliveira. It's completely one-sided. Completely one-sided. David Martinez looks like a top athlete for this bantamweight division. I'm a big fan already. I like what I saw. Strong, stocky, very quick in and out movements. Got good lateral movement as well. Bounces off his feet really nicely. Throws his hands, fights off the jab, and when he can switch stances and throw some hard hooks. Sometimes he enters with his hands a bit low, which I'm not a fan of. Almost like Michael Chandler does in a way. I would like him to keep his hands up going forward because as he's going to get as he progresses in the bantamweight division, you'll know Peter Yan, Cody Sandhagen, Sugar Sean O'Malley, these snipers in the division. These guys won't give you time a day with your hands alone. They will knock you out very quickly. Simon unfortunately didn't get enough, or he wasn't provided with enough opportunities to showcase what he can really do, which was a bit sad. But you have to also give props to David Martinez for doing that. He pushed the pace and he stayed in the void frequently enough and made that basically forced Simon to react in some kind of way. And unfortunately, Simon's reaction wasn't what was needed. And he took the knockout. And good performance from David Martinez. Lit up the crowd for sure. Unranked, unfortunately. So it's hard to say who he should be getting next. I don't personally think he should be fighting in the rankings. Not right now. Even though I do believe that fighters like Henry Cejudo, Jose Aldo, Marcus McGee, Montel Jackson, like these guys can kind of come out of the division now. Rob Font, these guys can. I mean, even though Rob Font won his last fight, which I think was very questionable, can kind of they can chill for a bit. They can come out of the division. The guy who Rob Font beat last. I'm just gonna quickly pull it up on screen for you here, and for myself. But the guy there we go, Matsumoto. Yes, this is the fighter I think that David Martinez should be fighting next. Jean Matsumoto. There we go. If Jean Matsumoto, he lost his last fight against Rob Font, very controversial in my eyes. He should be fighting against David Martinez next, just because he's an up and coming kid. He's been in the UFC for a little bit now, but he's been climbing up the rank. He's been climbing up the rankings. That's why he's able to get that fight against Rob Font. It was a short notice, but he did enough for the UFC to consider him. Martinez lit the stage up last night over the weekend. So the next prediction would be he can't fight a ranked opponent. He must fight an unranked opponent. One fighting someone like Matsumoto, who's basically one fight away of being in the top 15. So I would say that would be a good fight for Martinez, because then if he wins that fight, he can get that opportunity to go into the top 15 instead of Jean Matsumoto. But I think that's the next matchup. As for Simon Oliveira, he'll be all right. I'm sure we'll see him around again. Another unranked opponent, another fight night card. We'll probably get to watch him again. Then we get to see maybe what he's all about. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it moving. Of course, as always, let me know your thoughts on that matchup between David Martinez and John Matsumoto. I think that would be a fantastic fight. All right, we'll keep it moving to opening bout of the main card, where we saw Ronaldo Rodriguez. He took on Kevin Borjas. And I'm not sure if you can remember. You can go back and watch it. I'll leave the link in the description. Our preview for this fight card. We were talking about Ronaldo Rodriguez, and myself and Eddie were saying that the hype around him was a little bit too much. It doesn't match the performances generally. Noche, they were going on about him. We kind of saw the introduction to the world about what Ronaldo Rodriguez is about. But even that fight was like, there was nothing in that fight that was like left to be desired of. It was like I'm still having my reservations on this athlete. And he took on someone that was relatively unknown to the masses of this fight game, right? And he fought a good fight. He made it competitive. He was able to reverse and stuff 90% of the takedowns that was thrown at him. But once he did that, I always felt that he was going to win the fight. Kevin was going to win the fight, because I always noticed that Ronaldo's stand-up game is not the smartest. I mean, he got dropped 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just see on screen. Yeah, it says 1 knockdown, but I mean, he got knocked down. My memory serves me well. There was 3. There was 3. There was one right hand that really like stunned Ronaldo in the first round. Then, as the round was progressing, there was another knockdown from a straight right that landed from Porras. And then at the end of the first round, there was another drop from Porras again. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Ronaldo needs to do different. Personally, I think if I can reflect on it, I would say he must focus a lot on his boxing. Focus a lot of time on his boxing and footwork. Move out of the way when he's moving backwards and laterally. Keep your hands up. Don't drop them. You can parry a strike, but make sure at least one of your hands stay there. You can parry another strike with the other, but make sure your hands and then move your head away. Don't let your hands drop and then jump backwards, jump sideways, and let your hands drop. You're basically still an open target by doing that. So and that's how Kevin Boss got him the first time. The second drop was because Ronaldo came in with the hands down and then just walked into a straight right. So of course, what Ronaldo does is he has a habit of rushing and being aggressive for that takedown because that's his domain. That's where he wants to be. He's more comfortable in that position. But what happens when you can't get it? What happens when your opponent stuffs your takedowns and you can't get to that position that you want to get to? Are you forced to box? You're forced to fight in a realm that you don't really want to be in. And that's where Kevin looked very comfortable and happy, staying up. The moment Kevin realized that he could stuff the takedowns, you could see he was composed and he was relaxed in the fight, and ultimately um, further dampened the fan base of Ronaldo Rodriguez. And yeah, it proves my reservations again as to why I think he's not actually all that hype. I think he needs to. He's a fun character. He's a fun character. He will always sell fights for you in terms of promoting them. But when it comes down to performing, you might get another what's that dude Mokaev World Cup situation where it doesn't actually happen. So big ups for Kevin for getting that job done. I would have given him a freaking bonus because he beating someone that is just, I think is way too overhyped. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on that one, please. For now, I'm gonna continue to move down the card for some honorable mentions on the prelims that took place as well. I won't go into too much detail. I just thought the fights was quite entertaining. So obviously, I'm gonna start with the main event of the preliminaries where we saw Jose Daniel Medina. He took on Atiba Gutier, and yeah, I don't know why they made this matchup happen. That looked like a complete mismatch. Looked like Jose was a welterweight to lightweight, and he took on Ataba, who looks like he's a middleweight to possible light heavyweight kind of athlete from Cameroon. And he went in there and knocked out Jose in the first round. I mean, it was a scary freaking knockout. But yeah, I'm keen to see more of Ataba Gutierrez. I'm keen to see what he looks like in the middleweight division. So let's see what happens next for him. Then obviously moving down the card, the fight between Christian Rodriguez and Mulkizeo Costa was quite entertaining as well. I think Mulkizeo Costa did enough over the first 2 rounds by utilizing quite a bit of wrestling. I think he won the fight by doing that, where Christian Rodriguez kind of like always takes a bit too long to get his hands go, and then kind of costs him the fight. And yeah, I'm not impressed with that. That was one thing I didn't want him to do, and that's exactly what he did. Now he lost the fight. So big up for Mulkizeo. Right, then we move down for the ladies' fight. Lupi Godinez, she beat Julia Polastri, which I thought was also a very entertaining matchup. For Julia, I would like for her to be a lot more aggressive from the ground to get up. I thought once they were standing, she was a bit better than Lupi Godinez. I thought she was more aggressive once they were standing. Lupi got tired after that first round of extensive and high-level wrestling. But Julia, I felt won the fight. I thought that was a bit of a controversial win. I thought Lupi had the home crowd advantage. She got the takedown, but when she got the takedown, she just held her there and didn't really do anything with it. Whereas Julia, when she was on her back, she was landing devastating elbows, a lot more active. She made Lupi work for those takedowns. And once Lupi did get the takedown, Julia made her pay for it by throwing in quite a bit of elbows. Once they were standing, you could see Julia was starting to pick up the pace, landing more tips, looked to be a bit more of an aggressive fighter. Her boxing looked cleaner. I felt like she was a little bit too slow in the first round and a little bit too hesitant in the second round, which ultimately costed the 2 rounds and then put it in Lupi's favor over the judges' eyes, winning the fight by unanimous decision. So, yeah, gutted by that one, but also good performance of both ladies. Then another fight which I thought was a bit questionable in terms of the result. Rafa Garcia, he took on Vince Pichal, and I think Rafa Garcia won the first round. But then once Vince Pichal got 42 years old, once he got himself into the fight and he was there and he was, the what you call it, the adrenaline was pumping and he was in there. I think he made it competitive. I think he landed more combinations. He was a lot more active. Rafa landed heavier shots. It sounded heavier, but it didn't affect Vince at all. Vince was able to roll them and take them quite nicely. Where Vince was just active, popping out the jabs, popping up the 1-2, 1-2-3s, throwing a low kick. Was moving like the younger fighter between the two guys. But I think again, crowd favored to Rafa. I would like to watch it back again without any audio and see how it plays out. But on the night watching, I thought that Vince Patel was actually the more active fighter and he should have won the fight. Let me just quickly look at the statistics on the screen here. Um, Total strikes 76 for Rafa and 88 for Vince. Right? Total significant strikes 64 for Rafa, 79 for Vince. No guy shot a takedown. Rafa shot 6, only landed 2. Vince shot 3, missed all 3. But the fight stood for most of the time, and usually got up from that takedowns quite quickly. And I just felt that, pardon me, for 42 years old, Vince Patel put on a performance that, in the end of the day, my final reflection, the performance from Vince Patel made me realize that Rafa Garcia and Vince Patel should be leaving the UFC as well. Should be cut from the UFC. Even though it was a fun performance, it doesn't mean anything for the organization. It can't go anywhere. Rafa Garcia doesn't win any more fans on that performance because pretty sure half the people thought he lost the fight. Vince Patel is 42 years old, so he can't actually climb any rankings, really. So it's like, what are they fighting for other than getting a paycheck? So it's, yeah, in that regard, I would cut both these guys from the UFC. Only contract fighters that can make the fight make sense for the organization to grow. So I'm gonna keep it moving because I wasn't too chuffed about that result, and I'm not even a fan of either of the guys. I just thought it was bad judging. And then the last one I'll talk about is Jamal Emmers. He took on Gabriel Marinda. That's back-to-back knockouts for Gabriel Marinda, and Jamal Emmers obviously swinging like he's fighting in prison, just going nuts there. Ended up knocking Gabriel Miranda out in a very devastating fashion. And again, another athlete I think should be cut from the UFC is Gabriel Miranda. Back-to-back losses in styles that even non-fighters can tell you that's not how you fight. I mean, he has no striking defense. Every time he tries to enter, he gets tagged by anyone that he fights. So I don't know if the UFC is just paying him to go in there and put on exciting performances like that. But I mean, he's losing all the time. So yeah, as for Jamal Emmers, I need to see a bit more. Need to see what else he can do. I mean, this fight didn't give him a chance to actually do anything in terms of like the wrestling. I mean, there was one takedown from Miranda because of his jiu-jitsu, but Jamal got up quite quickly and yeah, let his hands go. So big ups to him. And then also another fighter that should be cut is Austin Hubbard. He lost this fight as well, and not much you can actually say on it over there. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you made this far. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. You can catch us again this weekend doing another more one championship content. We have another preview for ones. Let me see if I can bring it up on screen for you here. Because the UFC, the fight card this weekend is not that entertaining, to be honest. We're obviously going to give you guys a preview regardless. Because we obviously we have to, we love it, but we are going to give you the preview for that. That's going to be on Thursday, along with our general MMA news and our parlay picks for that fight card. That fight card, let me see if I can bring it up there. Here we go. We have Josh Emmett taking on Lerone Murphy. That's taking place this weekend, 6th of April on Sunday at 3 a.m. So we'll bring you that one. And then I can just bring the other screen, the other preview that you will get this weekend. Unfortunately, the past week we didn't get any one championship content because of the earthquakes that took place around basically Southeast Asia. The fight that's coming up this weekend at 2 a.m. As you can see on screen, we have a Fight Night 30 Clear taking on Knowles, and then we also have another rematch between Reagan also versus Alexis. What's his name? Alexis Nicola. There we go. Sitachai versus Nico Carrillo. Isis Tempa versus Sexan. It's going to be Pakang Masonyane fighting out of South Africa. It's going to be a sick card, so that's also going to be taking place this weekend. So we'll probably do a live for that one, so stay tuned. But we can also stay tuned for our previews taking place this week coming up. Probably Wednesday or Tuesday, you'll get the preview for this fight card. All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying tuned. Have a fantastic week ahead. And like I said, we'll catch the boys later in this week. For now, stay blessed. Cheers.